Good day, everybody. We are again going live from our ADRA World Headquarters in the US. I'm Iris Argueta.
And I'm Ruben Coarrubias. It's so good to see you, Iris, to be here to talk a little bit more about what's been going on and our response as well.
Absolutely. We've been able to get a lot of information. And if you go to our website page, or adra.org, you can see that all the events that are unfolding on the ground and how our teams are preparing. So this is an opportunity for us to give you another update, and we're happy that you can join us once again. We have an hour full of different interviews, and I hope you can stay with us. I know, Ruben, you're talking to a church, aren't you?
The Ukrainian church in Sacramento, they are having a response to what has been going on. And so we want to hear about that, see what they've been doing. Obviously, it's the Ukrainian church that has probably been just hugely involved in what has been going on. And we want to see their response, and hopefully from their leadership, learn a little bit more how we can help, and also what they are doing to respond to this situation.
And I think joining us will be also a refugee, a young refugee that came from the Ukraine, right? And that's here in the US, that's connected to that church. So we want to hear a little bit about his experience, and hoping to make sure that you can stay connected, because the more we learn, the more we know how to support.
Absolutely.
So happy that all of you, and I think we're going to start seeing people that are signing on into our messages from around the world. We thank you for joining us wherever you are. So let's get going. We're going to start with our first guest, and he is Thomas Petracek. He is the regional coordinator for the European office of ADRA in Europe. So thank you so much for joining us, Thomas. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's actually a pleasure for me to be here. So thank you very much for this invitation.
Yeah, first of all, it's important to understand a little bit of the mission of what's going on, with you in the field. Tell us a little bit about your role now.
Yeah. So actually, I'm the regional coordinator for ADRA. That means we are here in Europe. We have a regional office, which is working in the European countries region. And we have 30 offices under our office, which is based in Brussels in Belgium. And our position is actually to relate also with the European Commission, but also to help all our offices somehow to partner together, and then to facilitate this process of partnering and so on. That's my role, so as a regional, let's say, head for programs and emergency. Of course, in emergencies, we are also coming together. We are discussing issues which relate all of us, and we are getting more and more emergencies, and fortunately also in Europe. Not only those like we could see somewhere else, with shortage of food. That's not the case, but we have these wildfires, we have floods, and so on. And then unfortunately now we are in this conflict, which is really unfortunate for us.
Wow. That's now, Thomas, if I may ask, it's been 3 days since families were forced to seek shelter because of this war. So how can you tell us how the conditions are on the ground? We want to know what you may know about how are the conditions there on the ground?
Yeah, actually, we are in touch with our team, ADRA team in Ukraine. That is the main point for us of getting information. Of course, you will get a lot of information from media. We are capturing this information from different countries. But at the end, for us, it's important to know what the team is doing. So the situation is not easy at the moment. We have suspended all these activities which ADRA Ukraine was doing, actually close to Donetsk and to Lugansk over years, because we should not forget this crisis is lasting there for many years, actually since 2014. So actually 7 years. So they have suspended the activities because of security, and this was the main, priority for us. I would say at the beginning, to make sure that our people are in a safe environment.
That's so they're still in a safe location, correct? They're still
exactly. Yes, a safe location. Because the bombing started, the shelling and so on, and of course we have to take care first for the people. On the other hand, in the meantime, we are trying to communicate with them, and they are also not just sitting there somewhere else. They are in touch, for example, with the volunteers from the church. And as you may know, this conflict is not only in the south of Ukraine at the moment, but it's everywhere.
Wow.
So therefore it's so difficult to manage even any kind of help. But there is a big advantage, I would say, because we have the church. And ADRA was always working very close with the church over years, and there is a system of volunteers. There is a readiness and willingness to support those who are internally displaced, who are actually coming from those cities, places which are under the shelling and bombing, and the church volunteers, and actually the church itself and the people are helping each other. So I mean, between these brothers and sisters, I would say, but not only this, they're also helping those who are close by, the neighbors, and so on. The situation is really difficult, even, working with the UN, with OCHA, and so on, which is the normal way how we are managing actually the work in emergencies is at the moment not possible because everybody is in the bomb shelter,
I'm
And
glad you mentioned the bomb shelters because we understand that there are some people that, that have been trying to assist. We understand that about 100,000 refugees have already crossed into some of the borders, but many of them are still inside those shelters. I think, I want to ask our digital team, there's a couple of pictures that we wanted to share from our teams there if it's possible. If not, you'll see them on the chat. You can actually go and link them. I think this morning we even saw something come up from a church, from members who were just singing, praising God in this shelter, and it's amazing how in the midst of all these, situation, it's important to stop and praise God no matter where you are, so
Yes,
when we see this ongoing.
Yeah, and I can just tell you a very short story, because Artyom, one of actually our main person, the coordinator for the activities, my colleagues in programs.
Yeah.
I know him for years. I've been there in Ukraine several times, and I know what is going on actually right now. So how difficult it is, and this kind of linkage between us, as a Christian, is so important, So, and when I have sent him, for example, the Psalm 23, so the Lord is my shepherd, it was something very important for him. He was just saying, Thomas, this is exactly what I need to know because we are in this difficult situation and we have this hope in Jesus. And
Amen.
So therefore, yeah, any kind of such kind of support, if our listeners could do with the friends and so on, pray and send messages, to our churches and to those who are really in need. That's help a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, just regarding what's been going on, a lot of the viewers want to know how they can help, how they can be, what type of humanitarian aid will be crucial for these people in Ukraine and people leaving Ukraine from what you're seeing.
Yeah. Actually, we have discussed this, what is going on in Ukraine at the moment, but we have actually people who are crossing the border at the moment. We have mentioned the 100,000 people. It's very difficult to count all these people at the moment. We have some struggles on some borders. We know that some people are underway, but they are not reaching this place because of shelling and so on. There's also another problem because we could see only the children, the elderly people, and women actually crossing the border because the men between 18 and 60, they have to stay there. Yeah.
Wow.
And even some Ukraine men coming from the neighboring countries, they are coming back home because of this regulation. So it's a kind of work which we are now analyzing and where we are actually active with the volunteers who are coming to the borders, who are trying to actually get in touch with these people. We are also organizing this also with the authorities. This is also very important. All these neighboring countries are not developing countries. In such case, they are pretty well organized. Let's say Poland, also Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. So there is a system behind, but we need to support the system, and the authorities are also very interested to have the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, supporting them. So we are heading in different direction, so especially for these refugees. Actually, on all these countries, which I have mentioned, this is the first line, I would say. Then is the other line, the next line, because these refugees, some of them, they are just crossing this border, and they continue to their own friends, and families who are living in Europe, so that's maybe to Germany, the Czech Republic, to Austria, and so on. But in this first line, let's say our intention is to take care for the shelter, so we
And you're
are
using some of the youth shelters, like youth centers, and also I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we see the pictures now on where they're actually, this is Ukraine, and some of the photos that we've gotten from some of our ADRA supporters and ADRA staff members that we see right now. And many, I'm sure you've seen the images on TV, but I know that the church is working very closely with ADRA at this point, because you're now housing people temporarily, I believe, in church buildings and in
exactly. That's the main idea, to bring the people actually to church buildings. Not only this, so there are, for example, youth camps. We have a youth camp which is not so far from the border in Romania. We have volunteers, so waiting and working with those coming, and right now this youth camp, actually we are in the position to equip for families up to 2,000, actually for up to 2,000 families. And the church actually in Romania is pretty strong, and we have a lot of volunteers there. There's even the option to extend, because they have also other youth camps. But again, this is something what needs to be discussed also with the authorities. We have also many families which are open to take refugees, to their own homes, or to their own properties. And this is actually happening not only in Romania, this is happening in all these countries across the line, across the border, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, and all our volunteers and actually staff is more than less managing this also with the church. That's the main point. The second point is, of course, you have to welcome them, these people, to give them also something to eat, and of course some hygiene kits and so on. They are preparing this stuff. We call this food items, which are important. We call this something like welcome package. And the third point is actually working with the psychosocial issues, because all these people, or many of them, they are traumatized. The children are coming, and that is what is also one of these tasks which is right now in development. And let's come to the COVID-19 situation. We had here the pandemic, as you have, so, and during this pandemic, we were also able, step by step, with ADRA also to build the capacity for psychosocial support, having also those psychologists being able to help those in trauma or in problems. And that is what we are now using, and we want to use it, for the refugees.
Wow, that's so powerful.
I'm sorry, Ruben, I think you wanted to make a mention that before we leave into the next interview, we want to make sure that people are asking on the chat how they can actually do a special offering at this time or help. Why don't you get some information to our audience, Ruben, see, while I'm trying to make sure that the next guest is
sure. We have a lot of audience that are wanting to help. I'm sure Thomas and I, as you both know, everyone's always asking
what we need.
Yes, how can I help? And here at ADRA, that's what we're about. And you can see the website that's on the screen right now, adra.org/help now. You can go there and help. That's what we want. We are a church family, Thomas, as you have been saying. You see how the church gets together with what we're doing at ADRA, and together we just are there to help one another, specifically in this situation. So I know since this has started, people have texted me, have emailed me. I'm sure for you as well, Iris, since we both work for ADRA, and you, Thomas, how can I help? Go to our website, adra.org/help now. And it's so good to hear what the churches are doing in Europe and helping these people and just welcoming them. Just hearing that word, welcome these people that are traumatized, people that are going through unimaginable trauma, and seeing that the church has stepped up to literally be the hands of Jesus. And that's so, so powerful to hear. Thank you, Thomas. Iris, was there anything else that we wanted to learn?
I just want to give Thomas a chance to sort of do a special message. There are people listening around the world. Thank you. My goodness, there are people that have relatives. We know of a family who is in the U.S. whose mom is 80 years old. She's in an apartment in Ukraine right now. She's frail, and she needs somebody to go knock on her door to see if she's okay. They're trying to get this person out of that building into a safe place out of Ukraine, so that she can make it to the family members that are waiting for her here in the U.S. So I know it's difficult, it's hard, and I know our people are going to step in and support. But these are the sort of stories and the sort of real situations that we're facing here, in the U.S. and other places.
In Europe,
So what can we tell folks at this point? When we hear stories like that, Thomas, what can you to close?
Actually, in this difficult situation, if this shelling is going on, so of course the prayers are important for us. And I'm saying we are not just praying for God, please help, to solve this situation, but these are particular stories, and I'm sure there is the spirit behind, motivating the people and giving the wisdom how to deal with, So that's mean the moment I see the church people who are in Ukraine, our staff, working close together as much as possible and seeing also the needs around, so that's important. So for the first phase, because for us it's really difficult to reach them, so all these people who are in need. But again, I believe, and that is possible, God is mighty, he has his angels, he is protecting. We have to pray for our people, and they will be way how to solve this. There are miracles we don't know about them. They are not popping up here in our Facebook, live stream and so on. But there are definitely miracles behind, and therefore let us pray for these people. And of course, we are also so thankful that we have so many listeners, being interested, So we are working as a network together, and together, not as ADRA, but also with the church together. Therefore, the funding is so important for us, and we thank you so much for giving us this funding. We are managing this not only from Europe, we are also managing this together from ADRA International. And that is something what I really like. We are not alone here, So this is a difficult situation for us, but we are not alone. And you are with us, and the God is with us, and He will provide. I believe.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time. And again, thank you, family and friends, for joining us. You'll see our chat, you'll see our information. Go to adra.org and you'll be able to get more information. One thing that we want to make sure that people understand is that the ADRA has, Ruben, and you can talk about this a little bit, has the infrastructure already in place to support situations. And that's why it is more efficient for people to go to our ADRA.org Help Now page to sort of figure out how we operate, and what is the best way for your offerings to actually be used in an instant,
Correct.
So it's important. So.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the ADRA network and what we do, because as I was mentioning earlier, and I'm sure Iris and anyone that works for ADRA, you probably got that text, you got that phone call saying, how can I help? And our natural human inclination is wanting to, if we can't be there, just tell us what we can send. And a lot of times when we say, when you make that funding and that help that goes through, we say, well, how does that help? But now we heard straight from Thomas how it goes straight to help those people that need it. And so that's why when you go to our website, it does not sit there. You can learn more about how it all goes through. I saw in the chat someone say, how do I know it goes directly there? And it does. It goes to help these people so that they can then get the help that they need. So it's so important when you see ADRA at work and what we do and working with the church. I truly appreciated what Thomas said and how we're all working together. It is inspiring in the midst of this crisis, in the midst of this sadness, that we as a church and as an organization are working together to truly help these people. So that's so powerful. And that's why, as you mentioned, Iris, go on our website. You see it there, adra.org/help now, straight adra.org, and you'll see how we are helping.
Well, I think now maybe you can do like a quick introduction of the next interview. This is with the Ukrainian church, right? Where is this church?
This church is in Sacramento, California, and it is a Ukrainian SDA church. And I believe if we have some of the leaders that are part of this church that have been responding to this crisis, and I'm sure they have been up and ready for when this was happening, and this is affecting their congregation. And so we want to learn a little bit more about what they're doing and how they're doing it. So we have, I believe, Pastor Andriy and two elders joining us. We want to make sure, I know with technology, it may be a little bit tricky, but we want to make sure they're joining us as we talk a little bit more about what they're doing.
There we go.
Let's see, there we are. Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Great to have you here with us. We want to thank you for being joining us today as we talk a little bit about what's been going on. First of all, we want to know how you are doing. How is your congregation today?
Thank you. Well, let me first introduce who we have here. This is Pastor Andriy. This is Elder Igor. My name is Yaroslav. I'm an elder. And this is Daniel. He's a refugee from Ukraine who got stuck here in the U.S. because of what happened in Ukraine, because of the war. So how we're feeling, this morning we had a prayer meeting, and that prayer meeting was very difficult. All the elders who participated in the prayer meeting, it was hard to pray. Some people even turned to tears.
Wow.
We're very emotionally devastated. We have our brothers, sisters, we have our mothers, fathers, and our grandparents there, and they're all going through a very, very hard time.
Yeah. I'm so sure, and I can't even begin to imagine the pain and what the mind is going through as you try to understand what is happening. So I want to know, for our viewers, to understand a little bit more, how has your church leadership and your congregation become involved in the situation? What have you been doing? Obviously, prayer is the most powerful approach, but what else have you been able to do, if anything?
Would you like to say something?
Hello, everybody. It's very sad that we cannot do very much. But we understand that Ukrainians need I think 3 types of support now, and it's not about us. It's all about all our church in the world. First of all, it is information support. Many people really doesn't understand real scale of this war. And I want to say to people who watch this video that war affected entire territory of Ukraine. Not some eastern part or another part. No, entire Ukraine. And Ukrainians need us to help in this, to tell people what really happened there and happening now. And what we can do, we can speak with our friends here in US. We can post some pictures, videos. We can go and participate some demonstration about this situation and against the war. And it's first type of support that these people need.
Wow.
Second, of course, is humanitarian support, financial support, because now many people wanted to find some place where they can live in peace, and they need support, financial support. In future, they will need support in rebuilding their houses and infrastructure and etc. And
let me make a point right now with people that might be listening to you. Yes, financial support will be key in this manner because we understand that the banks have actually suspended operations. So I know that through our ADRA network and plans, they are preparing to provide cash vouchers so that people can actually buy whatever they need in emergency situations. And I know the crisis is happening, but that's something that if they can make it across the border or find a way, we know that, there will be support there on the other side. And while things are really difficult inside, our network is also trying to help within the actual location. I think you heard the emergency regional coordinator that right now, for safety reasons, they're actually on hold. But the minute that they can actually operate, they are going to be there. And the church community is also very active as well. So this information that you're giving us is so key, so that people can listen and get the word out to the people that wherever they may be, their family members and their friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we all understand about financial support. And third type of support is emotional support, is our prayers, of course. But why I talk also about this informational support, because it's also very important.
Yeah.
I came to USA like 4 years ago, and before that I worked like a director of broadcast and production of Cop Channel Ukraine. And what I can tell that before this war in Ukraine, we like a church, we had unbelievable freedom. Rights, human rights is very high level human rights. We have we can buy from government for very, very small amount of money 13 FM station, and we had 13 FM radios that spoke 24 hours, 7 days per week. Our Hope channel, it was full-time, 24/7 channel that broadcasted in most biggest cable networks there.
Wow.
Our pastors had possibilities to go to schools, to universities. The last few years, a lot of sanatoriums, schools were built. And if we speak about this war now, we understand that this is not a war only for territory, but it is war about some values. Because Russia, and we should understand it, Russia now is present values that had this USSR empire.
Wow.
And I think that it is a very big part of our support if we speak about that, if we tell people around the world about what is evil and who need our support.
Yeah. I would like to add that what Andriy is saying, Pastor Andriy is saying, is that the Russians' war against Ukrainian freedom is also a war against religious freedom. In Ukraine, the religious freedom was at the very high level, and we could use all the resources for gospel. But now in Russia, if Russia wants to impose everything onto Ukraine, and in Russia, the religious freedom is at the minimum level. So this is war against freedom and religious freedom.
Thank you for sharing that, and it's important to learn more about that. And here with ADRA and what we're wanting to do, and you had mentioned it, Pastor, regarding the emotional aspect of what's been going on and how we can show compassion and how we can and be a part of that. There's a lot of trauma going on, and how we can help with that emotional situation that's been going on. We understand that there will be a conference with grief counselors, if I'm not mistaken, for the church in Sacramento.
Before we move on, I want to just get a quick mention about this very important topic that he says. The beauty of ADRA, and I think Ruben would agree with me, that we don't take sides. We don't go to, we are there to support the people, no matter, because everybody's impacted, and the whole region will be impacted, as we know. And so we want to make mention, because in spite of the actions that the governments may take, either way, we have our workers are everywhere, including, across the border in Russia. So it's important to make mention that these workers there are also supporting the refugees that are going in different directions. They're there to support. They're there to provide, the immediate needs, the immediate assistance and shelter. There are shelters that have been prepared also on the Russia side, and people are actually helping there as well. So, the issue of religious freedom is a very delicate topic that I know we understand deeply because it affects us all. At the same time, we want to make sure that people understand that ADRA itself and the workers and the support that your church provides, and that when we work together with the church, it is unconditional. It is a way for us to just say, we are here, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you believe. We have people from all different religions and backgrounds supporting right now in different parts of the world with our refugees. So I want to tell you that we're going to be there for the Ukrainians. We're going to be there for the Russian refugees. We're going to be there for anyone that needs our support, and our workers are there to support that. So we want to make sure that we give Ruben a chance to speak up to Daniel. I think Daniel was.
Yeah, and Iris, regarding that, I appreciate the compassion that we want to show as a church body and as a religious organization. And as you see, we have our website on. We've been talking to Thomas. We're now talking here with this church leadership about how we can help. And for our viewers, they're constantly asking, and again, the website's on our screen, adra.org/help now. We're in a very delicate situation. We want to be that church that shows compassion. We want to be the people that show compassion to the people that need help. And so we thank you, Iris, for bringing that up. And also, as our viewers are watching, of what's been going on, I wanted to touch two various things. Daniel, we want to thank you for being with us. I'm sure this is a very situation that is not ideal and a very delicate situation. So Daniel, before we get to you, I understand that there are going to be some grief counselors joining your church this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us just very quickly before we speak to Daniel, the reasoning behind this, how you expect this to be truly helpful to your congregation?
So in regards to the emotional support that our church members need, is the seminar this evening was actually planned about a month ago, prior to the war starting. It's, the God's miracle, the way that God helps, provides help to us, is that this help, the emotional help and support, will be just right in time. This Saturday evening, they will speak to us, Stephen and Karen, Nicola, they will speak to us about what, how we should feel, what can we do with the emotional stress we have. So this is very important.
Yeah.
And now I would like to turn, to Daniel.
Absolutely.
To be able to share his story. Daniel, tell us about you, your brother, your father and mother, and grandparents.
3 тижні назад я прилетів сюди, в США, і я навіть не міг уявити, що буду отримувати дзвінки від своїх родичів, від своїх друзів, які в сльозах плакали і навіть прощалися, можливо, ми більше не зустрінемося.
3 weeks ago, Daniel came here with his brother just to visit his relatives here, and he didn't know that the things will turn this way, that he won't be able to come back. He didn't expect receiving phone calls from France, from Ukraine, who were saying goodbye, and they were saying, we probably will never see you again.
Wow.
Я би хотів поділитися своїм досвідом. Літом цього 2021 року ми купили білети, щоб летіти сюди до бабусі Філіпем відвідати їх.
In summer 2021, Daniel and his brother and the family, they bought the plane tickets to visit their grandparents who live here in the U.S.
І у зв'язку з коронавірусом ми дуже ретельно дивилися на всі умови, щоб це зробити. Але Бог якби закрив нам очі на те, що через Європу туристи не можуть летіти в США.
But because of the coronavirus restrictions, that summer of last year, because of those restrictions, they couldn't benefit from that opportunity to go here visit their grandparents last year. And that's why they came this year.
I see. Can I just ask him a question right now? We're going to run out of time, and I just want to make sure we ask him a question. So Daniel, obviously, how are you coping now that you're staying here? How are you coping?
Як ти справляєшся з переживаннями, які в тебе тут є?
Чесно скажу, це тяжко, тому що перший день, коли це почув, тяжко було спати. Вчора, сьогодні ти весь час ходиш з таким комом на душі і чекаєш повідомлень від своїх друзів, батьків, що все добре.
It's very hard for him to cope with this stress. He cannot sleep. He is always in touch via the text messaging with his parents and friends who are back in Ukraine, and so he's very stressed.
Wow. So yeah, I was continuing on that. You're staying with there. How has the community showed compassion to you, Daniel? How has the local church community been of help to you?
Розкажи про підтримку, як люди, які оточують тебе, підтримують.
Що підтримують? Ну, всі підходять, питають, як проявляють увагу, і це дуже допомагає, тому що ти хочеш з кимось про це поговорити.
People are asking about how he feels. They try to comfort him and provide some support for him. So he says even talking to somebody about those issues is also a relief.
Wow.
I see. So as you're here now, obviously it's going to be difficult for you to go back in the near future. Can you tell us, basically, what are your hopes and aspirations in terms of how you want to? This could be probably your immediate life in the U.S. What do you hope to do here? And obviously, it's a big change from when you were there. But right now, you're adapting. You had aspirations to visit here before. You want to make this, a good trip and a long-term trip, as I imagine. But tell us what you're hoping to do eventually when this subsides.
Розкажи про свої сподівання, про те, як ти думаєш, буде розвиватися майбутня ситуація для тебе, і як ти бачиш своє життя тут в Америці наразі?
Ну, перш за все, я сподіваюся, що як можна скоріше я зможу з'єднатися зі своїми батьками тут, що вони прилетіли сюди. І йшлася розмова про те, що мій батько звершував служіння в Сіетлі, то, скоріш всього, так.
He would like to hope to join with his family, with his parents. His father is a pastor, and he was offered a pastor's position here in the church in Seattle, Washington. So he's hoping that their family is going to come over here in these difficult times.
Wow.
That's wonderful. That's something that we can lift up in prayer, and hopefully that, that's an opportunity for you to actually make your home. Listen, we have so many texts of people sending messages to you of support. You are one in a million of kids that are probably going to end up in situations like this. And so we are grateful for the support that you are getting at the church. We are here standing by, and hopefully our ADRA teams in the field, can also provide support to your family and friends and relatives back home. If you had something to tell your friends back home, what would you be? I mean, if they're listening to you right now, what can you tell them?
Якщо би ти мав можливість сказати своїм друзям в Україні щось, що би ти зараз їм сказав?
Я і говорю зараз, як тільки маю з ними зв'язок, про те, що ми за них молимось і бажаємо, щоб все це як можна швидше закінчилось.
I already text back and forth with my friends in Ukraine, and I tell them that we support them with our prayers, and we pray for the war to end as soon as possible.
Thank
Amen.
you so much. Amen. Well, we want to thank all of you for joining us, especially you, Daniel. This cannot be an easy time for you and your family and all of your church congregation. Please let them know we are praying for them. as a church and an ADRA family, and we are here to show compassion and to be there for all of us as we go through this time, as everyone is experiencing this pain and this anxiety. Thanks once again for joining us, and please enjoy and with your church congregation the rest of this day. And remember, we are always praying for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Thank you.
If you could allow us 2 minutes, Elder Ihor would like to share some information that he got from Ukraine, from the orphanage, and the very
Sure.
situation.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I know we run out of time, but there is really scary information I got from my niece this morning. She is desperately asking for help. I don't know what resources the ADRA still have in Ukraine. There is actual hostages. I mean, orphans, they hide in a basement, on a shelter, and they're trying to flee somewhere. And they're asking if there is any refugee camps that we actually know that can take them. It's about 50 people, 50 kids and adults, they supervise them. They're trying to go, but they don't know where to go. And if there's any information from ADRA we can get, there is actual refugee camps, or if you still have operation in Ukraine, if somebody can take them to the safety. That's my question would be to ADRA.
So this is a very important question, because we're on the phone before, on the live, we had Thomas Petracek, and he is the regional coordinator for the area. So he's basically the one that sort of will understand what's going on with operations on the ground. So what I can tell you is that off the Facebook Live, I'm going to have you connect with our church engagement coordinator, Kenzie, and can you please connect with her, give her all of the information, and we will make sure that our team back, in the region can get the information, so that if there's anything they can do immediately, they will do. Thank you for sharing that. And these are the same, and family, friends that are watching us. These are the kinds of stories that we need to know, so that that if there's any way we can do or send help through our church members, through ADRA volunteers or ADRA staff, that we can support. So feel free to use our Facebook. Excuse me?
Thank you for that connection, yes.
Yes. And please pray for those kids, because those 50 kids, they're small, they're scared, they're running out of food, they have no transportation, they're totally helpless.
So
Absolutely.
I think, Ruben, and did you see the information that Thomas Petracek just posted? Perhaps we can share with that.
I'm looking for it right now. Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do. It says here that Thomas Petracek, we just talked to him at the beginning of the hour. He's the regional coordinator. He's saying ADRA activities are temporarily suspended because of the shelling. However, the work with the volunteers, where possible, continues through the church channel. So we can see good cooperation in helping people like the folks in the orphanage back home. So I'm telling you again, and Thomas made this mention, and he's telling us now, please send us the information about the children. We will do whatever we can. There you go.
We have people that will be reaching out, and as mentioned, Kenzie, Thomas, we have some other people from our team that will also reach out to make sure we get that information so we can get it to the proper places. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes. We'll be praying for you, and then thank you. Keep us informed. I know churches around the nation have been doing vigils. We encourage those, and we encourage you go again to our ADRA.org page for more information. So now, we were talking about the mental health aspects, and I know we have 2 people that are actually giving their time right now. Their name is Steve and Karen Nicola. They are grief educators, and they're, Ruben, they're the ones that are going to be joining the Ukrainian church this afternoon.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Very happy to be here.
It's been a difficult situation, as you heard. There's a lot of frustration that we hear in the voices of the people here at home, in the voices around the world, when they see, the aspect of injustice and hurt and all of these anger issues. What can you tell us at this time? How can people cope with the situation?
Oh, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was truly, as stated earlier, our time with the Yugoslavian Sacramento Church this evening. Ukrainian Church this evening was scheduled months ago. And as it came closer and closer to today, we were very aware that the timeliness of this is critically important. This evening we're going to explore a little bit about why we cry and how can we help. The question, why are you crying, might sound like a insensitive or a redundant kind of a question, but it was in fact the very question that Jesus asked Mary Magdalene at the sight of his empty grave. She fully convinced that somebody had stolen his body away. And Jesus took those moments for her to find the words for her unexplainable grief. And as I've been preparing for tonight, I thought so much that the trauma that was around her experience at the cross was every bit as much as warfare as what is taking place in the Ukraine. The violence, the trauma of viewing this kind of violence, the helplessness of knowing that you can't change anything. These are all processes that brokenhearted and traumatic people will experience. And in the work we do as grief coaches, it has become very clear that grievers need three things. They need to find the words, they need to speak the words, and they need to know they've been heard. Wow. And so that's what we will do this evening, is just be able to share that more than anybody, God listens to our pain.
Wow.
And then Steve's going to share how we're going to be able to learn how to listen to each other's pain.
Yeah, we here in the United States obviously don't know just what our Ukrainian brothers and sisters are experiencing. We have not experienced that kind of trauma or persecution in the United States yet. But we've all experienced losses of many different kinds, whether it's the loss of our homes up here where we live in Northern California to fires, to death. We live in a very unstable world. Yeah. And the situation in Ukraine is certainly a sad reminder that we are not home yet. And so the question is, how do we best, as Christians, as Adventist Christians, how do we support each other between now and when Jesus comes again? Obviously, Christ's coming is going to put an end to all the mayhem and the insanity that we see taking place on the internet right now in Ukraine and other places around the world. And so the question is, how do we best support those people that are traumatized and are in grief and in deep sorrow? And there's really not a lot we can do to take that pain away. That is their pain. That's their private pain to process and deal with as they can. Mm-hmm. But we, as the ears and the arms that can hug and be the person of Jesus in human flesh here on planet Earth, is to be able to come alongside a hurting individual and just be present with them. Yeah. Our words are not as important as our presence is at that time. To be willing to be quiet with them, to be willing to just simply listen, and listen without any expectations or judgment or trying to compare something that's happened to us and let them know that we've had that same experience. If we can just enter into that space and say, I'm here. I don't know exactly how you're feeling. I don't know that, but I'm here and I will acknowledge the fact that you're in pain.
Yeah, isn't it? It's an amazing honor and a privilege to sit in the space of that kind of pain. Yeah. And that's kind of sacred work that we view our work as very sacred.
I know a text I will use, and I'll share tonight with our Ukrainian brothers and sisters down in Sacramento, is this text from 2 Corinthians 1:4. And it says, He, Jesus, comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God gives us. Wow. And it's such an encouraging text for us in the work that we do. But we also have to ask ourselves, well, what kind of comfort does God give us? Does God take the trouble away. In many cases, he doesn't. And that's perplexing to many people, and we understand that. But what we can always count on, when we look at the stories of the three Hebrew worthies in the fiery furnace, is that God didn't remove them from the fire, but he joined them in the fire.
Amen.
And so if there's any encouragement we can give to our Ukrainian brothers and sisters, is that in the midst of the fire, literally the fire and the bombings and the shootings and the destruction that's taking place, by faith, knowing that God is right there hurting along with you. This is not his plan, but it is his plan to always be there. He has promised that he will never leave us or forsake us. And he wants us to say that, and to know in our deepest core, that regardless of what these circumstances are around us, that we know that God loves us and he is right there with us. That's a hard one that's easy for us to say in the comfort of our non-destroyed home right now. But it does behoove us here in the United States and around the world are not experiencing this destructive activities, to learn to lean more heavily into Christ, to be able to learn the lessons of faith and trust and dependence in times of relative ease, because our Ukrainian brothers and sisters are experiencing a situation that says all they have is their faith in many cases.
Stephen, Karen, I wanted to ask very quickly, and you've been touching on this, and I so appreciate the ministry that you have. And I saw your website on there very quickly. If anyone wants to check it out, it was on the screen, but it'll come back on here in a second. But you keep describing this sort of have this empathy. And, for a lot of us, this may seem like it's on another part of the world, or how do we form that and to have that empathy towards this situation if it can become difficult for us?
Good question.
Ruben, that's a really excellent question. And I think it gets formulated for us in different ways. And I find myself going through seasons where I'm not as touched by another person's pain or sorrow. So maybe one of the ways that we can shift that is that we ask God, please make me sensitive. I want to be touched with what touches your heart, God. Yes. I want that what hurts you to hurt me, so that I can be present with people in the space that it's painful for them. See, I think our culture is so resistive to pain. It teaches us to do everything but engage with the pain. It teaches us to distract, to deny, to numb it, to medicate it, to shop it, even go on mission trips just to run away from our pain.
Yeah.
So let me make a brief question here. I know that people, we operate a lot in the social media world. And I think before we end our segment, I wanted to make sure that we get some advice to folks, because sometimes we use our social media in these situations, in different ways that perhaps may not be the most positive way, but to show our empathy, to show that we care and touch people in this time of need, especially for the folks that may not know Christ, may not be outside the church. We want to extend the opportunity to that we can go across the board. You know what I mean? That we can actually also show love and compassion and understanding across all lines of all religions. What would be the best advice you could give for social media, to use the social media in this positive way?
Ooh, good question. That's a question that we love to talk about, because I think we have gotten very surface, particularly here in the United States, about our responses to a very deep problem that somebody is crying out for. I'll share what I just did this morning. Where we live here in our region, I work with funeral homes with our book, Comfort for the Day, Living Through the Seasons of Grief. And it's a book that's utilized in hospitals and churches around the United States, and actually in different parts of the world. And so I've been reaching out to our funeral homes to see if they'd like to carry them. And we have a whole system here in Northern California of funeral homes that are owned and operated by Christian Ukrainians. And so Karen just reminded me that Andre is who owns all 16 of these homes all over Northern California. It's a big operation. Is Ukraine? I said, that's right. So and then just right here in our own town, one of his own homes is operated and directed by a Ukrainian funeral director. So here's what I did is I reached out to them, not on a business level, but on just a Christian level, and said, my heart is feeling for you today. I know you have family and friends back in your homeland, and I just want to let you know that I'm praying for you. But here's how I want to answer your question, Iris, is that rather than put praying hand emojis like we do with Facebook, these little praying hands, let's write our prayers out right there. Let's not say we're praying. Let's pray. Okay. And so I prayed for both of these men in my email to them, that God would protect their family and friends and would protect all the people in Ukraine, and that our hearts would be knit together with theirs in the compassion that Christ has. And admitting that I don't know what kind of stress and strain it is to have family members that we can't communicate with or get to. But I would say the best way that we can do it is, if someone has a felt need that they've expressed, let's let them say, rather than just giving up praying hands, it only takes a few minutes more to simply type out a brief prayer, heartfelt prayer, letting them know that we're thinking about them, we're lifting them up to the throne of grace.
Another thing to do, if I could just add one more, is the most important thing, no matter what anybody's religious backgrounds might be, is to acknowledge someone's suffering, someone's pain. I understand this is really hard for you right now. Rather than just say, oh, I'm so sorry, that becomes all about us. But instead, if we use our words, this is really difficult.
Yeah.
And just acknowledge what someone is facing is so important.
People, when they're in the situation like that, they're not expecting us to say anything that will take away their pain necessarily.
They can't.
They just simply want us to say, do you know I'm in pain?
Do you care?
Do you care that I'm in pain? And don't offer platitudes or words that we use so often that we're trying. And we understand that most people are very sincere in that. But we can learn to do it better, I think. And that's what our work is all about.
Well, with that said, I think sort of like gives a very important message as we conclude this 1 hour of talk to brief people about Ukraine. We've shared your website, and I want to make sure that people understand that there's an access to that if they have more questions about how to cope with the situation. We want to thank you again for your ministry and wish you well as you move forward with this. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of inquiries of folks asking for information. Do keep us, and I want to say keep us in our literally praying, for everything that we do. And this is a learning experience for all of us. So how to use social media and how to be more proactive and not just with little signs and things and icons. And so with that in mind, also, I think, Ruben, is also important to remind people that apart from the prayers, it's important if they want to do something, that there's a special offering that they can give to support on the ground, in the field. It is so crucial so that we can continue not just the temporary help, but the long-term help that all of these refugees will need in Ukraine and outside Ukraine, no matter where they are, on the side of Russia, on the side of Poland, on the side of Slovakia, everywhere where they may be. ADRA is still supporting them.
Absolutely.
That's why there's a banner there.
That's why we have that website of adra.org/help now, where they can go on there and just get that information that they need and be of that help to what has been going on. And obviously this hour has flown by, and the conversations that we had, you can see the passion and just the need that is needed out there, the anxiety, the stress that's going on. And we have the opportunity to be the hands of Jesus. We have the opportunity to spread that and be the compassion that we have. And we just learned from Karen and Steve, from Steve and Karen, a little bit more about how we can do that, as well as they are going to be helping these people as well through. And I just want to know their website was Comfort for the Day comfortfortheday.com, comfortfortheday.com. If anyone
We'll
wants
put
to
it on
know
the
about
chat, I think, so that you can continue to see it. But I want to, before we close in just a few seconds here,
Yeah.
I think there are folks on our chat who are asking, where is this orphanage that we discussed today that needs the support in Ukraine? So we will, we will probably reach out directly to you to give you more information. So Dan, I will make sure that we can give you the information directly. And I can't pronounce your last name. Vardaman, I think. Stan Vardaman, from wherever you're joining us. Thank you so much for your message. We will try to connect with you so that, we can provide that information, that you can find a way to help out the folks. And
Yes.
Goes to churches@adra.org, Dan, and they send your message and we will connect you to see if you can support the folks on the ground. And for others that are listening that have needs, that may have family and friends that are listening to this broadcast and want to find out how to get support or messages to the relatives back home, the churches@adra.org will also be the way to go, also to provide us that link, and we'll be able to connect you with the folks that are doing the work in the region.
Well, that's great information to have, and you can see people are interacting in the chat, and we want to know that we're all helping together, but it's come time to close.
Yes.
And so, Iris, it's been great talking to the people we have been talking to, learning more about how we can help as a church family, and seeing that ADRA and the church together is out there helping those that are in need. So, Iris, I don't know if there was anything else you'd like to share, but we're coming
Just
here to
continue
close.
to lift up us in prayer and keep us in your prayers and keep on supporting ADRA and the work they're doing around the world. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be in touch for more lives as the weeks come. As more information is unveiled, more updates that we have will come on, and just check us on social network and we will provide you more information.